We want our kids to learn to lie.
Hello, I'm Chris Lisserman, and welcome to Sparks, a series by Interactive Workshops. In each episode, we talk about something we can spark in work and life. From how to spark projects, to how to spark feedback, to how to spark poker wins.
We're going to get some big...
Raise.
You raise me?
Yep.
I'm all in.
Oh, I'll go on all in.
Caught.
I want all the chips.
Red-handed. I was bluffing. I was bluffing.
Yes. All the chips for me, please.
Yeah, well, you certainly haven't been eating all the chips, Chris.
I love chips.
You're looking very well.
Thank you very much. And you, John, how are you?
I'm actually... Yeah, no, I'm okay. No, I'm fine, actually. I was just lying.
Oh, right.
I'm actually brilliant.
That's interesting, because we're going to talk about honesty.
Truth or lie?
Truths and lies.
Yeah.
How to spark lies. No, how to spark honesty. But also, we're going to look at the flip side. Is it ever okay to lie at work? Are there white lies that are okay?
Well, let's start with that one. How often do you lie at work?
How often do I lie at work? I think we've got to start with what's the definition of a lie.
Well, I think before that, let's start on a macroeconomic level, Chris. You know, I like to go at the very highest level.
Let's go there. Let's go macroeconomic.
Markets are based on confidence.
Right.
We work for companies.
Yeah.
Companies operate in markets. Markets are based on confidence. Share prices are to do with confidence, future profits. And future profits are a question of where are we now, where we're going to get to. Can I believe that your company is going to get where it says it's going to be? Yeah. So all of the value of companies, all of the value of shares depends on confidence. As we find out in banks, when suddenly everyone loses confidence that the bank is going to be there tomorrow with their money, they take it out, the bank crashes and it's gone. It is gone. The same with a company. If they lose confidence in the company, the share price they start selling plummets. So the value of organizations, commercial organizations, companies, is dictated by confidence. Now, and here's the important part, when we're not completely sure that we can trust someone, we put in place contracts.
Right.
And the entire legal profession is
Based on contracts.
Based on contracts.
Yeah.
So the market runs on confidence. All of our law is to do with
Runs on contracts. Yeah.
And just in case those things don't work, we have insurance.
Right. Yeah.
Which says that if this happens, if this badly goes wrong,
Yeah. We'll still be okay.
we'll pay out for you.
Get the payout. Yeah.
London, where we're based, is a world leader in insurance, and it's a world leader in law, and it's a world leader in companies. And so we can talk about honesty at work, but we should start with that meta-narrative that everything to do with work is actually about, can I trust you to do tomorrow what you said you would do tomorrow, what you said today.
And that brings with it honesty. We rely on some honesty.
All of company value, insurance, law, is all to do with, are you trustworthy? In fact, if you have gained some wealth, you may place it in a trust. That's
Funny that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So against that context, I think we can say that we know that honesty is really important,
Of course.
and it's the basis on which our society works.
Yeah.
That you'll do what you said.
Yeah.
You'll do tomorrow
You
what
sign
you
a
said
contract
to do today.
to join an organisation and you turn up on
Exactly,
the Monday where you said
exactly,
you would. Yeah.
exactly.
Imagine if people were lying every
Well,
time.
there are countries where that is the case, and we call it corruption. And there also is corruption within every company. There is people who don't do what they say they're going to do, and some of those are bad actors that maliciously don't do what they say they're going to do. Some people don't do what they say they're going to do because they forgot, or it didn't quite work out, or they meant to do A and instead they did B, or they had a lapse of judgment, or a misstep the current way. But there are also bad actors, and we sometimes see that.
People blagging it maybe, and
Yeah, blagging it is
not
perhaps,
in a good way.
Perhaps blagging it is when you say you can do something, but you don't really know. In fact, there's it's part of actually getting a promotion. Perhaps might be blagging it, but it's whether you go too far and you kind of overstate what you can do. So yeah,
Is confidence a lie then? If we don't feel it, if we're actually not confident, we've talked as well about motivation. I'm remembering where part of that was, can you just look like you're someone who's motivated? And we said part of that may be faking it until you actually feel some of those effects of motivation. Is confidence a lie?
yeah, it could be. It could be a bluff. In fact, I read a fantastic article in The Guardian about why it's fundamentally important to teach your children to lie. Yeah.
Wow.
And they said,
sounds dark.
They said that if we want our kids to learn to lie, when Auntie Mavis gives them a toy for their birthday that they don't like, we do not want them to say, I don't like it.
Well, I'm never going to use that.
I've already got one.
Chuck.
Why did you bother?
Yeah.
So when Uncle Brian cooks them a dinner and they go around for tea, we don't. That is disgusting.
That's the worst thing I've ever eaten.
Want that. We don't want to say I don't like you. We as a society we want a certain social set of skills. If we can't lie, it's almost like we're on a spectrum. Sometimes we'd be difficult to be around. So there's a certain amount of social skills that involve lying. Actually, those skills are quite sophisticated. But I do think also confidence is an area, for example, where we may want to fake it until we make it. However, if we are always doing that, or if we do it too much, the net effect is that people don't really believe us. And you'll see this from me. Sometimes I will project a bit of confidence when I don't feel it, because that's what's required. And I know that it will have an effect on other people. So I'm using it as a tool. And sometimes I'm truly confident. So I guess that's an area where it's similar to the child. There's a bit of deception taking place, but it's actually very helpful on a social level. If as a leader of a company, I kept standing up at every town hall and saying, no one in any company knows whether the company's going to be there in a year's time. Look at Purple Bricks. Last year, it was worth 1.5 billion. Yesterday, it sold for £1. Right. Here's our 3-year plan. You know, it's like no one needs that. So there's a role of confidence, and confidence, I think, is an important skill, but it's also can be required to have a bit of a bluff.
When then does lying become a problem in an organisation?
Oh, Chris, you tell me, Chris. What do you think?
I think it's, as you said, there's we rely on honesty for things to work. Just like you said, the simple, can we expect that you'll do what you say you're going to do? Will you turn up when you say you're going to turn up? All those kind of things we rely on. I think we also rely on some of the white lies, the lying to, boost your confidence, whatever it is, or keep confidential things private. If someone asks you about something that's confidential, of course you've got to...
It's another important skill, isn't it?
You've got to be able to cover that up in a way that's not... manipulative or unfair or anything like that, but still keeps confidential information confidential.
Yeah.
So that's another way where lying is good.
Well, there's a responsibility to honour. There's a different level of integrity, which is to honour confidentiality.
Yeah.
It's another good example of where we can't really be black and white. Is it wrong to deceive people? Actually, sometimes it's needed. But the question is, how frequently, how often? And I think if you look at the general picture, I love Gestalt psychology. But in Gestalt psychology, we talk about the foreground and the background and how we make meaning.
Yeah.
And we make meaning of the foreground by the background. So if we see a tiger coming and the background is it's in a zoo, that's fine. If it's in a jungle, we're worried. And I think with lies, it's like that. If let's say there's something confidential with a team member that we don't want to share, I think everyone understands the meaning of the fact that you wouldn't, even if directly asked, you might obfuscate or say I can't speak about it, or you might tell a small white lie. However, if the general background is that you're always doing that, then your credibility is plummeting.
Yeah, it's when the credibility is in question that it becomes a real problem.
And the integrity, yeah. I'd like to can we just divert a bit into poker though as well?
Yeah.
Because I think that when people think about lies, they think about the words, but I think that the body language is also absolutely fascinating. I'll give you an example. Like there was a team member in a few recent weeks ago said to their manager's manager, can we please just check in on this person? Because something in the body language, my intuition is there's something going on. And they did go and check in, and there was something going on. Equally, if someone arrives at work late in the morning, I'm looking out the window and see them coming in, I know from their body language whether they feel bad that they're coming late or they're fine with it. Yeah. And I think it's very interesting in terms of honesty and reading. There's a book in poker, which when I first started playing poker, I read 100 poker books over about 3 years. But my favourite one was Caro's Book of Tells. And this book was to help you think, when you're at the table, it had lots of photos. Is this person bluffing or are they telling the truth? So the person who comes in looking sheepish like that's unlikely to be a bluff, is it? That's them thinking, I know I'm a bit late and I should have been here earlier. But the person who comes in confidence, that maybe that's a bluff. Maybe they also know the same. So in Carey's Book of Tells, the first picture that you have to deal with is that someone's just made a bet and they show you two photos. Which of these people is bluffing? And the first photo is someone looking down at the money they've just pushed into the table with their hands in front of them. Yeah? And the second photo is someone leaning back slightly and looking away. Now, which person would you think, I'm happy to play against them? Would you put your money in to the person who's pushed their money in and then is looking down at the table at their hands, or the person who's looking slightly away? Which one do you think's telling a... What picture are you seeing there?
My instinct says the person looking away is more uncomfortable with what they've just done.
Okay.
So I don't want to go with that person. I'd rather go with the person.
You think the person looking? Yeah. Yeah, so the person who's looking away, in that case, is more likely that they think they're going to win because they've probably got good cards.
Right. So they don't want to look at their cards. They're trying to divert attention.
They don't want to think. They want you to. They don't want to think about what's happening because they're trying to. They want you to bet, but they're looking away. And
so it's uncomfortable in the value of their position.
Yeah. They've got a very valuable position and they're uncomfortable. Whereas the person who's looking at the cards on the table, they're wondering what cards are going to come out because they don't know if if the cards are going to be good.
They're going to be good, yeah.
So but this kind of reading, I think it's really, we're doing it all the time, whether we realise or not. We're trying to read social situations. We're trying to read statuses. We're trying to read hierarchies. We're trying to read how authentic people are. And that is a really, I think people don't think about it that much. They don't think, if they give a reason why they failed to do something, they don't see the difference between that and just saying, I'm so sorry, I actually forgot to do it. They feel like you've got to give a reason. But yet, in perhaps giving a reason, it'd be better to say, I forgot. It'd be better to be honest and say, do you know what, I completely forgot that meeting, that's why I was not there. Rather than say, I'm so sorry I didn't make that meeting because my other meeting ran late and my camera wasn't working.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Rather than coming up with an excuse, just being honest.
Yeah, but the picture is better to be bolder and be honester, more honest than to bluff.
Yeah, it's interesting because we might be tempted to do that little bluff, that little come up with an excuse on the spot to make it sound more credible.
To save face.
But yet, if that is our reputation that we always come up with that excuse, our credibility drops.
Yeah, it's a great piece of counterintuition. So in trying to protect our reputation, over time, our reputation gets worse. If we were just completely honest, our reputation would grow, even though we weren't doing necessarily a good job.
Yeah,
it's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah, and then there's other things that are impacted. Like if you are able to admit honestly what has happened, you might be able to get support or help, or understanding or awareness of what you might be struggling with, or what might be your weaknesses. There's ways you can actually deal with that. Whereas if you're bluffing, people will either
you're on your own. You are on your own. If you're bluffing to your employer, your teammates, if you pretend that you've done things you haven't, if you make excuses, you're making yourself be on your own, and you're removing from yourself the opportunity for your colleagues to support you. So it is fundamental for a leader to create an environment where people can be honest. And we also know exactly what it feels like to work in companies where you can't be honest, where if you do something wrong, you're going to get heavily punished. So you could think about that. Can you? If it's a bit like taxation, if the taxation becomes too high, people start hiding their money. But it's the same with punishments for making a mistake. If the punishment for making a mistake is too high, people start hiding their mistakes. So we want the optimal environment is one that creates a sense of honesty and improvement, rather than hitting a standard through pressure, but you can't avoid that standard, and you kind of have to lie if you don't make it.
Yeah, those are kind of uncomfortable places, and it's almost uncomfortable dwelling on this topic of lying. Should we switch into honesty? How do we create an honest culture?
Well, I would like to ask you whether if you were to sort of wake up and think in the morning about life, do you think people generally are honest, or do you think generally people are dishonest? Because I think that's the start point of the question, is what we think about the world.
I think people are honest generally.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my view
So I
of the
think
world.
you'll be able to create a culture of honesty.
Right.
I think some people start from a place of suspicion. It's similar, actually. Do people have to prove themselves to you? that they're trustworthy? Or do you give them trust to start with and then only readdress that position when you find that they've been dishonest? What do you do there?
I think I'd start with trust. High amount of trust in the emotional bank account to start with.
Yeah.
And that works down if people let me down.
Okay. So that's a question that leaders can ask themselves. What am I bringing to this situation? Am I bringing a trustworthy culture in my projections and expectations, or am I bringing a kind of culture of suspicion? It's also what you yourself do. We all deceive. You, me, we all do. But how much do I? How often? In what areas? If as a leader I've got high integrity and I bring that every day, then I can model to my team that it's okay to be honest. In fact, when we first started our company, I said to Andy, my business partner, I said, Andy, look, if you ever want to just go and play golf during the day, just go and play golf. I don't mind. But if I ever phone you and you say, I'm on the golf course, that's going to be fine with me. What I really would always find difficult is if I think you're on the golf course and I can't, but you say, yeah, I'm just at the shops. And actually the pandemic and home working has accelerated a lot of that. I had the plumber around the other day and I said to him, you're plumbing, so you must keep going into people's houses. What's going on with home working these days? He said, mate, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. He said, I have been around to people's houses and they say, right, I'm just going to go on to some calls in here, and they shut the door and they just start playing Call of Duty. And when I've gone to knock to kind of go in, they say, no, you can't come in because I'm on a call. And they're just playing, I can hear them playing Call of Duty. He said people just laying out in the garden, the sun lounger, they're not doing any work. Some people are not doing any work. Yeah,
it's kind of quiet quitting kind of thing. Yeah.
But it could also be the case that people are working till very late at night and not being honest about that as well. So I think it's what do you bring to the situation? And I know that sometimes when I'm working from home, sometimes I'm not working from home, Chris.
You can be honest about that.
I can be honest about that. I sometimes when I'm working from home, I just lay down on the floor and think, I've had a really busy week. I don't know what you do.
I mean, there's flexibility, isn't there, in that you've probably got your home life going on.
Yeah.
And it's easier to, especially if there's a toddler at home like I have, to switch gears into I'm on a call, then I'm dealing with the toddler, then I'm back to work,
exactly.
and I'm juggling a bit more than definitely when I'm here. I can't do that.
Exactly. But the point is, if you are a leader, if you want to have a culture of honesty, you yourself have to be honest. And you also have to make an environment where it's okay for other people to be honest. Let's say that you couldn't be honest about the fact that your kids are also there sometimes and you're doing a bit of childcare, then you have to immediately maintain a lie. And that will go across every part of our relationship. Even when you're at work, you're carrying with you this weight that you've got to maintain a deception. And that is incredibly taxing. And in fact, coming back to poker, if you play a high bluff strategy in poker, you can win a lot of money.
Okay.
However, the energy required to play that strategy means that over a night of poker, you will start making mistakes. If you bluff a lot, you might get it right to start with, but bluffing all the time, there's huge emotional cost.
Taxing.
It's mentally taxing.
Yeah.
So let's say that you bluff a lot in poker and you win a lot of money at the start of the night, but you keep on bluffing, you'll probably start making mistakes. By the end of the night, you'll have lost all that you won. Yeah. And I think it's the same with work as well. If you operate a strategy at work where too frequently or too many areas, another one is talking about people behind their backs. If you spend a significant amount of time at work or frequently talking about people behind their backs, when you then see that person, let's say I'm bad-mouthing you, Chris, chatting with Andy and say, Chris, I can't understand that. What a waste. How did he do that? It seemed like he was even looking after his kid, Then, oh, hi, Chris, how are you? I'm immediately having to put in more work because I know.
I'm having to lie in a sense.
I'm having to deceive you. I know that I have done something that's not ethical, and I've got to maintain this lie that everything's great between us. It adds to the full amount of workload that I have to do in a day. Replicate that out across a team of 10 people. And things like gossip, which we think are probably not that harmful, actually, they really, really drain everybody and you can never know where you stand. So these are the areas where we think about a lie like, yes or no, did you do this? Did you file the form by 5 o'clock, yes or no? But it's not actually just about that. It's the ethics of how you work and how you interact with others.
How you conduct yourself.
How you conduct yourself, your private, your personal leadership of yourself.
Yeah. In our assessment process for interactive workshops, we have a specific question that we like to ask to get people talking, test the social skills, test their thinking. We ask, should we speak our mind today in the current world?
What do you think? So if you were applying for a job here, you might have to go in our group discussion.
The initial feeling is, well, yeah, of course we should. Free speech, we should speak our mind. People should be empowered to say what they want to say, believe what they want to believe. That's the kind of narrative that is out there. But in these discussions, and I've seen a few of them, it starts there, but then someone will say, well, what about so-and-so that spoke out and got cancelled?
Yeah.
You know.
So there's a question there, isn't it? What happens if we're honest and it hurts another person's feelings? Or it makes them feel uncomfortable? And I mean, we've also been at a party, you know, when someone's being too honest about their medical
we don't
situations.
Want that. Too much information.
So this is why I think it's important to think about this as a social skill. There's the ethical part, but there's also the social skill. Let's say you've got some strongly held beliefs that you know are controversial and are going to be uncomfortable for others. Should you bring those up? And in that case, I think you've got to think about context, but also relationships. Is that what people want from you? Do they want to bring that up? Do they want to be challenged, or they want to have a difficult conversation? Can you read the room? Can you find the moment? And again, this is why I characterize this as a social skill, like we were discussing with the kids. If you can't do that, if you can't work out when's a good time or a safe place to talk about something difficult versus when is not a good time, then go away and work on your social skills and go and try and think about the empathy and try and put yourselves in other people's shoes and try to understand whether this is the moment where they want to be challenged about that or hear about that, or whether it would be better to do that in another time, in another place. I do think, though, overall that we talk a lot about resilience, and I do think it's also helpful to learn how to have challenging conversations and how, let's say you're faced with a person with extremely different views from you, how to interact with them in a way the process is easy and the emotions are easy, even if the conversation is a intense discussion. And again, we see this kind of in board meetings and things where we might be facilitating and there's difficult dialogues, and we might say to people, well, actually, this is how Steph and I have our arguments at home, actually. We've got an agreement that if we have a conflict, we will try to say the emotion in words, not demonstrate the emotion. So if I'm cross or angry, rather than saying, why did you do it? Again? Did you really say? Rather than say, when you did that, I felt frustrated. Or when that happened, it made me angry. Yeah. So if I can say it in a neutral way, at the right time as well, you may have to. Some people say don't go to sleep on an argument. I say go to sleep on the argument. Bring it up when you can have an adult dialogue. But I think when we're facilitating board meetings or when we're working with senior leaders, especially, sometimes there's too much emotion flying around. So there is a social skill also to putting forward your views in a way that can be disagreed with. And I really value people who've got that skill. That's why we have some of those group works at the start of our recruitment process. Can these people put across a challenging view, but in a way that's open for others to agree or disagree with, to challenge or debate? It's a really important social skill.
Yeah, essentially strong views, lightly held.
Strong views, lightly held, Chris. What a great expression.
Yeah, write that down.
Is that what you've got?
Yeah, I think it's important. I've got some strong views, strong values, faith behind me, and it's interesting what you said about how often should that be brought up, and I think what everyone's got behind them, you know, in terms of their thinking, their value set, their worldview, it's sometimes weird if you don't get any sense of that. But other times also weird if you get too much of that. Like you say at the party, you get too much information. You want a little bit, and that comes back to honesty and how much you share of yourself. Yeah. And how much you paint this lie that you are, you know, ultra professional or exactly. So
this also comes back to one of my favorite discussions, which is the difference between honesty and transparency. So I can be very honest. Am I transparent? And I can be honest. So honesty is like, I can answer a question truthfully, but do I tell you the whole story? Whereas transparency, there's nothing I'm hiding with transparency. The person arriving late, they could easily say to you, do you know what? I just couldn't be bothered to get up this morning. And it's not a good characteristic, but I'm really wish I had, but I just didn't. Or they could say, oh, tube were late. So, or they could say nothing. So saying nothing, they're not being dishonest. But if they were to share the real reason and be transparent, then we can engage together in a dialogue about how we might
exactly
get to a better standard or do things differently. So the transparency, like you're saying, sharing a bit of the background of what's really going on in your life, I think, again, is a really valuable skill in the right moment.
There we go. So transparency really helps. Maybe not always honesty, because as we said, you can't and maybe shouldn't always be honest. Definitely not completely honest.
Yeah.
But most of the time you can be completely transparent.
If you could be transparent, that would be great. And again, if we think back to what we started on this, if you think about the trust that we have in companies, that's also a reason why we have to have auditors and why there has to be reporting, which is we need a level of transparency to believe and to understand that your company is being run in a good way. And it's the same actually with your work. If you've got tools or if you've got processes that help show people the status of where you're at and how you're working and give them faith that you're making progress and making sure you're not hiding anything, then that also helps them to believe that you are doing a good job. And I think that's partly what we're trying to do when we come to work, is to demonstrate in good faith that we are putting all our effort in and that we're doing a really good job.
Can I tell you the best lie I've ever told?
Well, I would love to hear that, actually.
The best lie I've ever told was when I told my now wife that I wasn't ready to get engaged and that it was a conversation for another time, on the same day that I picked up the engagement ring that I'd ordered, on the same day that I proposed.
So you shamelessly lied to her face.
Yep.
On the very day that you had. Why did you do that?
Love.
Yeah, you didn't want to spoil the surprise.
No, it's a surprise. It's intrigue. Yeah.
So there's other things you could have said, like, I'm not sure, or could we talk about this another time? But
I think I tried those things, and she was quite insistent about talking about,
she's a lucky
engagement.
Woman. You're a lucky man.
There we go.
Yeah. I mean,
some of these things useful.
Another symbol of good faith, acting in good faith. The engagement ring.
Yeah.
The wedding ring.
Another contract when you get married.
Another contract. Yeah. And this is the nature, isn't it?
Trust-based contract. Yeah.
But if we can't operate organizations, we can't run the world without good integrity and confidence. Yeah. And we know what happens in the countries where there's too much corruption. They just cannot function. And so it's quite philosophical. It's quite deep, actually. Same actually on relationships, isn't it? If there's a lot of deception at home, that's not good. No. The same in companies. And I guess it takes courage to engage. That employee that's telling excuses, it takes courage to say, look, I'm just listening to what's happened over the last month, where each time a piece of work is late, there's always a reason. I'd really like to talk to you about it. Like the overall picture is that there's always a reason. And some of those reasons might be plausible, but
the whole picture is uncomfortable.
The whole picture makes me feel uncomfortable. Could we discuss a little bit what's going on here? Could I have more transparency? Could you give me a signal earlier how you're doing with these things? So there's like a social sophistication. I think if you used to say, I think you're lying, that would cause a conflict, and they can't escape from it. Yeah. Whereas actually we can give people an easy way out and kind of take them on a path to being more transparent and open.
Yeah. And one of the themes of the podcast really has been thinking about what the other person wants and how they feel and how we might be able to help them and serve them in that. And I think it's interesting thinking that through with the lying and the honesty. Like we said, sometimes it's right to protect people, confidential information. What do people want? Well, they want their information to be private if it's of that nature.
Yeah.
But thinking back to the engagement ring, does my wife want the spoiler of that's what I'm going to do? No. So that lie is okay.
Yeah. So I think there's some social lies that are absolutely fine. It's interesting what you're saying also though about what we're trying to do in terms of progressing that honest culture, because the emotional intelligence, you kind of think that if you catch someone in a lie, you would want to confront them, but actually, I think it's better to assume positive intent.
Yeah, and
to think they're probably doing this because they don't know how to do it any better.
Yeah,
can I make a way out for them to be more honest? Which is different from kind of can I confront them? And it reminds me a lot of like parenting strategies. You don't want to keep having a confrontation, can you make a way out for them? My mum used to say to me, I've asked you, did you do it? I'm just going to ask you again, did you do it a little bit? Just a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did it a little bit.
Did you think about it? Yeah. Did you?
I did a tiny bit.
Yeah.
So, but I think, again, the same strategy is true at work. If you, and obviously there's ethical and there's legal situations where if someone was to have been deceptive, it's a very officially wrong. But in many cases, rather than being really directly confrontational, you want to make a way for them to be more honest using your emotional intelligence. Yeah.
Interesting. That's how we can build a more honest culture.
Yeah,
that's drawing out the.
But if we perceive them as a bad actor and try and catch them out and punish them, it's probably not going to be great for us.
Positive intent first.
Yeah.
So, John, how are we helping organisations build their culture, whether it's honest or something else?
Chris, we're doing a lot of that. And I think honesty, like charity, starts at home. So a lot of the programs that we run, we're asking people to think about where they're actually at. Where are they at with their job? Where are they at with their skills? Can they be honest about where they're at? The same actually is in poker. The start point of poker is, do you know where you're at? Do you know what your cards actually mean in the context of the game? So there's the elements of self-reflection in learning and development and in the programs that we run. Think about where you're at. Can you honestly say where you're at? And can you understand where you're at? And if you are, where do you want to go? So there's that part of honesty, of self-knowledge, self-understanding. We do also work on communication. See, communication techniques and strategies and manipulation, we can learn all those, but it's better to have clear, honest communication. So we help people to think, what is the message? What's the storyline that's accurate that I can tell? I mentioned earlier before, like if I say the company's Purplebricks was worth 1.5 billion last year and now it's worth £1, what is the storyline that you as a leader want to tell? That one may be honest, but there are other honest storylines that you could use to tell the story of where your company, your team's going, and to share that with your team. So it will help on that area of storyline. And also then thinking for leaders about communication, some of the tricky management issues. Managing people is constantly full of challenges, of difficulties, of ups and downs. But thinking through how to do some of those conversations, tricky conversations, challenging conversations well, how to you yourself be a leader with high integrity. These are some of the things that are in our leadership programs and a great pleasure to work on. And so but I think they're also part of being a good corporate citizen. And, we know those stories of whistleblowers, the people who've flagged up things that everyone else wasn't saying that needed to be said. And I hope that through the work we do, we encourage people to take those kind of strong moral positions as well and to do the right thing.
Yeah. No word of a lie.
No word of a lie, Chris. That's what we're here to do.
That's what we're here to do. It's brilliant. And if anyone listening or watching wants to get in touch, find out more about how they can do that for their organisation, they can do that, can't they? They can go to interactiveworkshops.com.
We're there.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, please do subscribe to the podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe on YouTube as well, if that's the place you come to us for.
Like and subscribe, comments below.
John, thank you for joining me in this episode.
Thanks, Chris.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Thanks for watching this video by Interactive Workshops. Give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Click through to here or here to watch another video by Interactive Workshops.